Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning. From wherever you are joining me, from wherever you are listening to this at, by whatever time you are listening to this and watching this and viewing this, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I said good afternoon twice, didn't I? Yes. But hello again. If you're just joining this channel, just finding this link to this channel, this is Joseph. I am Joseph, and this channel is the copacetic life, but I'm here to read the Course in Miracles to you and to myself as well, because I have never read the text version of it, and I chose to read the text version of it one section at a time, as close to a day as possible, close to a section a day as possible as I possibly can. And today I'm returning into chapter 7 with chapter 7, section 8, titled The Unbelievable Belief. That is a very striking title to me. And I mentioned it in the last video that I was excited to get to this chapter, to get to this section, to get into it, to see what it is about with that title. Very eye-opening, very striking, The Unbelievable Belief. Don't forget though, at the end of this video, there's a playlist, speaking of titles, there's a playlist of every section that I've read up to this point thus far. So don't forget to click that title again, click that playlist at the end of this video, so you can look at every other video that I've done so far up until this point. So you can follow along, you can keep up, you can catch up. But if you have a copy of this book, even better. You can read along with me. You can let me know where you're at in this book. You can let me know how it has affected your life, how it has transformed your awareness and perspective like it has mine. So without further ado, let's get into section 8, The Unbelievable Belief. Now, we have said that without projection, there can be no anger. But it is also true that without extension, there can be no love. These reflect a fundamental law of the mind, and therefore one that always operates. It is the law by which you create and were created. It is a law that unifies the kingdom and keeps it in the mind of God. To the ego, the law is perceived as a means of getting rid of something it does not want. To the Holy Spirit, it is the fundamental law of sharing by which you give what you value in order to keep it in your mind. To the Holy Spirit, it is the law of extension. To the ego, it is the law of deprivation. It therefore produces abundance or scarcity, depending on how you choose to apply it. This choice is up to you, but it is not up to you to decide whether or not you will utilize the law. Every mind must project or extend, because that is how it lives, and every mind is life. The ego's use of projection must be fully understood before the inevitable association between projection and anger can be finally undone. The ego tries to preserve conflict. It is very ingenious in devising ways that seem to diminish conflict, because it does not want you to find conflict so intolerable that you will insist on giving it up. The ego therefore tries to persuade you that it can free you of conflict, lest you give up the ego and free yourself. Using its own warped version of the laws of God, the ego utilizes the power of the mind only to defeat the mind's real purpose. It projects conflict from your mind to other minds in an attempt to persuade you that you have gotten rid of the problem. There are two major errors involved in this attempt. First, strictly speaking, conflict cannot be projected because it cannot be shared. Any attempt to keep part of it and get rid of another part does not really mean anything. Remember that a conflicted teacher is a poor teacher and a poor learner. His lessons are confused, and their transfer value is limited by his confusion. The second error is the idea that you can get rid of something you do not want by giving it away. Giving it is how you keep it. Yes. Let me pause for a minute because it says giving it is how you keep it. And I read a portion of this book before. I think it has to be in the workbook for students because that's the only section of this book that I've read so far. And the sentence here says, giving it is how you keep it. And I know it's in here, one of these one thought per day for a whole year. It says, in order to keep what you have, you must give it away. And I thought of that as like a divine dichotomy. You know, how do you keep something but give it away at the same time? That's that value it said in the beginning. If you value it, in order to keep it, you must give it away. And I think that it says that it extends it, it multiplies it. We sharing it multiplies it. And I said this in another video that I was reading when I was reading this, that by sharing this, extending this, I'm multiplying it to myself and also out to you, to the masses, which I intend to do. Because I want this to soak all in. I want this to soak all into me. Every atom, every cell, all of my being, soak all into me. So let's get back to it. It says, giving it is how you keep it. The belief that by seeing it outside you have excluded it from within as a complete distortion of the power of extension. That is why those who project are vigilant for their own safety. They are afraid of their projections. They are afraid that their projections will return and hurt them. Believing that they have blotted their projections from their own minds, they also believe their projections are trying to creep back in. Since the projections have not left their minds, they are forced to engage in constant activity in order not to recognize this. You cannot you cannot perpetuate an illusion about another one without perpetuating it about yourself. There's no way out of this because it is impossible to fragment the mind. To fragment is to break into pieces, and mind cannot attack or be attacked. The belief that it can, an error the ego always makes, underlies its whole use of projection. It does not understand what mind is, and therefore does not understand what you are. Yet its existence is dependent on your mind because the ego is your belief. The ego is a confusion in identification. Never having had a consistent model, it never developed consistently. It is the product of a misapplication of the laws of God by distorted minds that are misusing their power. Do not be afraid of the ego. It depends on your mind, and as you made it by believing in it, so you can dispel it by withdrawing belief from it. Do not project the responsibility for your belief in it onto anyone else, or you will preserve the belief. When you are willing to accept sole responsibility for the ego's existence, you will have laid aside all anger and all attack because they come from an attempt to project responsibility for your own errors. But having accepted the errors as yours, do not keep them. Give them over quickly to the Holy Spirit to be undone completely so that all their effects will vanish from your mind and from the sonship as a whole. The Holy Spirit will teach you to perceive beyond your belief. The Holy Spirit will teach you to perceive beyond your belief because truth is beyond belief and his perception is true. The ego can be completely forgotten at any time because it is a totally incredible belief, and no one can keep a belief that he has judged to be unbelievable. No one can keep a belief that he has judged to be unbelievable. The more you learn about the ego, the more you realize that it cannot be believed. The meaninglessness of perception based on the unbelievable is apparent, but it may not be recognized as being beyond belief because it is made by belief. The whole purpose of this course is to teach you that the ego is unbelievable and will forever be unbelievable. You, who made the ego by believing the unbelievable, cannot make this judgment alone. By accepting the atonement for yourself, you are deciding against the belief that you can be alone, thus dispelling the idea of separation and affirming your true identification with the whole kingdom as literally part of you. This identification is as beyond doubt as it is beyond belief. Your wholeness has no limits because being is infinity. Because being is infinity. And that concludes section 8, the unbelievable belief. So it's saying that you believe in the ego. The ego is unbelievable, but your belief in the ego has created the ego. But your belief in it and your creating of it can also undo it, but not alone. And you're not alone. You're never alone. I always said a long time ago, I always went off by myself and did things by myself, hiking, camping, biking, whatever. I was always by myself doing a lot of stuff. I called it solo dolo even. But at the same time, I always said that I'm never alone. I never really understood what I was actually saying. It just sounded cold as heck to say, I ain't never alone. I never felt alone either. Never felt alone. And this is why. I have never been alone. The Holy Spirit is always in me, with me, around me, and never apart from me, or I'm never apart from it, the Holy Spirit. So that is why I'm never alone came to mind, came to be. So it also says, do not be afraid of the ego. The ego is actually afraid of you. Understanding what it is and dispelling it is afraid of you. Don't be afraid of it. I liked it. And I can't wait to get into the next section. So join me tomorrow for the extension of the kingdom. Section 9. All right. It's a 2-page section. Not very long. But as I said in the beginning, there's a playlist right over here. Or is it right over here? Right over here. That allows you to check out every video thus far that I've done. So please click on that video. And I'll remind you at the end of this video, as I always, that this book is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. But the only thing that is not required is the length of time you take to complete it. Thank you for reading with me today, and I will see you again next time.